Live on tape from the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles, Battle of the Network Shows presents the Season 2 BATTY Awards, honoring the best of the best from the past season. Coming up, awards including Best Series, Best Episode, Best Facial Hair, and the inaugural Genius Award. Join Byron Allen as he roves the audience to make sure the losers still feel good about themselves. Also, B. Arthur performs a medley of nominated theme songs. Heinrich of Midvale runs a gamut of faucets, and Gabe Kaplan and Bob Conrad recreate their infamous runoff from Battle of the Network stars. Who will finally claim victory? More importantly, who will claim victory at the Baddies? Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
As you heard from the exciting opening there, this is the second season BATTY Awards. And this is Mike, and I'm here with Rick, and I guess we should, maybe if you haven't heard the Season 1 BATTY Awards, explain to you how they work. If you have, we're just going to refresh your memory. They were all decided by Vladimir Putin.
Of course.
Yeah, we're just doing what, no. Do you want to explain it a little bit?
Well, we have a prestigious blue ribbon panel of nominators who have gathered the finest elements, the finest individuals, the finest show elements, the finest episodes, the finest everything of what we covered in Season 2. From that vast grouping of excellence, they have gathered nominees in each category that we have. We have most of the same categories we did in Season 1, but we've got a few new ones this time. And we're going to decide the winners live on the air right here at the Shrine Auditorium. And basically, the two of us are going to determine these things, and we have some mechanisms. If we can't, if we don't decide unanimously, we have some ways to determine things. But
that's right, random number generator.
Yes.
If we come to a deadlock, we'll use that. Yeah,
we felt it's the only fair way to decide the winner of everything. Really, is by a random number generator.
That's right. As we discuss each set of nominations, we'll be on a strict timer.
Yes.
5-minute timer. Sometimes goes on longer if I can't figure out how to turn it off.
That is a distinct possibility, but
right.
Yes, so the discussion may be a little bit spirited at times, but we'll try to keep it civil, and hopefully you and the audience will appreciate the conversation. We both have, I believe, if I may be so bold as to say, we've got these rented tuxedos. We want to get them back so we don't lose our deposit, so that's another incentive to keep the show relatively unbloated, unlike certain other award shows.
Yeah. Of course, we'll be taking a break for some of those features you touted in the introduction.
So, for example, checking with Byron Allen as he's roving the auditorium.
That's right.
Did you see Byron beforehand? He looks good tonight.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Yeah, he's in rare form.
He is. He's always a sharp dresser.
And enthusiastic.
Yeah.
It's infectious, really. I'm pumped. You know,
yeah.
I'm excited to be here, and we had a great Season 2, and what better way to look back and celebrate than by giving a bunch of awards to people.
That's right. Okay, well, let's get into the first category here, and this is going to be a tough one.
Uh-oh, we're starting off with a tough one already.
I'm starting off, yeah. I'm just going to read these in the order in the list I have.
Okay.
Outstanding facial hair / mustache.
Ooh, a popular category.
Yes.
The nominating committee had some excellent choices, I'm sure. Let's see what they came up with.
Tom Selleck from Magnum P.I.,
Mm-hmm.
and, of course, his mustache.
Yes.
Burt Reynolds from his cameo on the Golden Girls and his famous mustache. Gabe Kaplan from Battle of the Network stars, also mustache. And finally, Mr. T, which would be a full beard.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, let me start the timer.
Oh.
Here we go.
Well, this is an excellent category to start off with. It's what a way to start the show. This is a dream matchup. Just if you had Tom Selleck and Burt Reynolds, many people did fantasy mustache matchups in the 1980s between these two, and we're going to try to decide this right here during this award show. It's a lot of pressure, Mike.
I know. People forget about all the fantasy mustache leagues of the 70s and 80s.
They were huge.
Yeah. It was all by mail.
Yeah.
Or, just
you didn't have internet
in your
back
office
then.
or something.
Yeah.
But, mail was the big way people did it.
Well, I have an interesting anecdote about that, actually. I actually had something. I didn't have sufficient postage on one of our mail drafts, and I wound up having to settle for Lee Horsley in my fantasy league because I didn't get my pick of Tom Selleck in on time. And I had the number one pick that year. It was very frustrating, and I wound up losing that league, needless to say, that year. But that's what happened when you had mail, folks.
Right.
Had to rely on the mails.
I mean, there's question about whether Lee Horsley's mustache was even real.
Yeah, now he was eligible that year, but I definitely got some ribbing, as you might say, from the other participants for that. But so right now, and that's not to give, not to slight, Gabe Kaplan or Mr. T.
Yeah,
certainly not Mr. T.
No.
And their facial hair was very prominent in the episodes we covered.
Yeah.
Mr. T, of course, in Silver Spoons.
Yes, that's right. And Gabe Kaplan, I already said, Battle of the Network stars. In this case, we haven't gotten to Welcome Back, Kotter yet.
No.
And he doesn't have the mustache anymore, does he?
In recent years, he's kind of phased that out as he's. I don't know. You'd think it would be a bluffing advantage in poker,
Right.
but I haven't. To help hide your true intentions and your facial expressions. But I think he's mostly gone without it. But is it really between Tom Selleck and Burt Reynolds here? Or do we need to consider Gabe and Mr. T?
I think it is. I mean, coming into this season, I thought it was like Tom Selleck had a lock on it.
Yeah.
And then we did the Golden Girls episode. Yeah. I'm like, uh-oh.
His mustache practically walked away with that episode.
Yeah. And I think it's between those two. No offense to Gabe, and certainly no offense to Mr. T. If this were a best haircut,
right,
Mr. T would be walking away with this.
Yes.
Especially, because of the way everything kind of connects.
Yeah.
You get the beard, connecting to the hair, but then the mohawk, his mohawk in particular, connects in a way that, like, he has a side ring mohawk thing going on, not just a mohawk.
Yes, you're painting beautiful pictures with words here. Yes, it's an excellent description of it. I think it's fair to point out that while their facial hair was excellent in these episodes, it probably wasn't their best work.
Right.
Like Mr. T had fine facial hair work and other TV, of course, in the 1980s. Gabe Kaplan more in the 1970s, but as good as they were, not so much. Whereas Burt, yes, it was a cameo, but he was a huge movie star.
He was.
So it's kind of a big deal. Even in that short appearance, he made a bigger impression, I think, than the other two. So to me, yes, it's definitely between Tom and Burt. And boy,
with Burt, there is that theory that he's only good when he doesn't have his mustache.
Yes, I've heard that. I discount that theory, but it's worth considering.
Because if you accept that theory, then that you're saying Smokey and the Bandit isn't good.
Yeah.
Hooper isn't good.
Right.
Cop and a Half
isn't
good.
I don't know if I want to be in that kind of world.
Smokey and the Bandit 2, that's not good.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's the exception that proves the rule, maybe.
Right.
Well, the Golden Girls did swoon over Burt, as we remember.
They did.
Let's also look at how people reacted to the mustaches. Aaron Gray, as Digger in that Magnum episode that we covered, I've always said that if I could have a woman look at me the way that Aaron Gray looks at that mustache in that episode, I would be a happy man. So I think that's worth considering, that even though she was trying to play it cool, you could tell that she was drawn to the mustache.
Right.
That's something in Tom Selleck's favor, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to, for me, partly because the timer is about to go off, but Tom Selleck is the winner for me. I might be blasphemy, Burt, almighty Burt.
Yes.
But he's the guy. I mean, other than like a brief period in a...
You're saying Tom's the guy?
Tom's the guy. Tom's mustache is the guy.
Tom's mustache is the guy. Tom's mustache is out of control. Tom's mustache is feeling rather sprightly today, apparently.
There. Okay, I finished. I figured out. You don't hit the button that says done. you hit the other button at the top of the screen that says timer done.
I see. Okay.
And these are not buttons either because it's an iPad. But
Right. Please finish your thought though.
I just his mustache still lives on. His mustache has been used in comedy bits. He talks about it on talk shows even now.
It has a life of its own.
Yeah, and apparently has its own agent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
So, I think they're both in the Mustache Hall of Fame.
Yes, of course.
Of course.
First ballot.
Yeah. It's Tom Selleck for me.
You know what?
And his mustache sustained an entire episode of a show.
That's an excellent point. Ultimately, Bert's mustache only made a cameo.
Yeah.
It didn't have to carry a whole show, let alone an hour-long show with all action going on. Burt Reynolds may have his day in other episodes on this podcast.
Right.
And I hope to Burt he does.
Yeah.
But for now, I agree with you. Tom Selleck should be the winner of the best facial hair slash mustache for Magnum PI.
Congratulations, Tom Selleck.
Excellent, Burt. Yes.
You can put this on the shelf along with your Emmys.
Yes.
And
And along with his Just for Men and his grooming products.
grooming products, yeah.
And well done, well earned.
Yes. All right. That was a tough one.
Yeah, I'm a little drained from that, but
Yeah.
we'll try to carry on, keep the show moving.
And I think this next category has some competition, too. Actually, no, I'm going to skip those two because those are bigger categories.
Okay.
We'll come back to best male and female performance.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
those
should be.
are always highly anticipated awards.
However, I think this is a good one. Outstanding performance by a youth.
Ooh, yes. Okay.
All right. Let's read the nominations and then I'll start the timer.
Sounds good.
Outstanding performance by a youth, Gary Coleman from Different Strokes. John Navin Jr. from Silver Spoons, 2 episodes.
Yes.
Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoons, and Peter Billingsley from Real People. All
Wow.
right. Timer has started.
I remember a lot of scuttlebutt before the show that the Silver Spoons votes might cancel each other out in this category.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but they were both excellent.
Yeah, you could also, there was a little scuttlebutt that the adorable blonde vote would cancel each other out.
True.
Yeah. Or that no. There wasn't scuttlebutt about Silver Spoons and Gary, Different Strokes canceling each other out.
Well, unless some people might think like the sarcastic wisecracker vote.
Yeah.
If you could throw Navin in with that and him and Gary Coleman maybe, but
Right. Or just the Norman Lear sub-universe.
yes. It's a very complex process, the BATTY Awards sometimes, isn't it?
It is.
So what are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, Billingsley, of course, is the one not acting in this case.
Right.
He was an actor, but in context of Real People, he was just a presenter.
Although, if I may interject, he may have been acting like he wasn't annoyed when Bill Rafferty had his hand on him and was tussling his hair.
Yeah.
So that may have been an acting, but yes, as you're speaking it, he was not performing as somebody else.
Yeah. Ricky Schroeder, I think we praised some of his work. Maybe not his comedy chops.
No.
I mean, he was passable in that.
His courtroom speech was excellent.
It was moving.
To the juvenile jury at the end of that episode, that was impressive.
That's right. John Navin Jr. Actually, I would say he had to cover more emotional range than Ricky Schroeder in those 2 episodes.
He was given a lot to do. Yes.
The usual bully, that business. But then he had to be afraid
Yes.
of Mr. T.
Right.
He had to be embarrassed when Ricky cleaned his clock.
Mm-hmm.
In the second episode, again, he was embarrassed by his father.
Yes. Good point.
He had to walk around in his underwear.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the courtroom, he had to play his character pretending to be worse off than he was.
Yes.
And then finally, disappointed, I guess, in losing and embarrassed again.
Yeah.
He's pretty good at embarrassed.
Yeah. He is. He showed a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah.
In those episodes. He's always impressive to me, and I did like him very much in Silver Spoons. Yes.
Yeah. And Gary Coleman is, I think we talked about, as a natural.
He is.
Yeah.
And especially by that point in Different Strokes, run, he had hit his stride, and he's Gary Coleman. He's an icon.
Yeah. Billingsley, I would say, maybe hadn't hit his stride yet.
I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit out of his element, and I hate to say it, he was fine on Real People, but not quite his natural
Yeah.
spot, I think.
Not at his Christmas Story peak.
Correct.
Yeah. So for me, I would say it's between Coleman and John Nathan Jr.
I agree 100% with you.
All right.
So that gives us a little something to work with here. Now, if we're talking about, in general, Gary Coleman, the fact that Gary Coleman's a huge icon, that makes more of a difference. The episode we did, a two-parter of the adoption,
Yeah.
it had a lot going on. It had a special guest star. It had the whole family was more involved. Wasn't necessarily a showcase for Gary Coleman's Arnold Jackson as much as some of the other episodes of the show were. However, it's Gary Coleman we're talking about. It's hard for me to vote against
Wait, what
him.
are we talking about?
What's that?
What we talking about?
What you talking about, Mike?
I'm not. You're the one talking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
What I talking about?
Gary Coleman. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I think I'm leaning towards Gary Coleman. Even though Naven stole the show in those Silver Spoons episodes, Gary Coleman is the child actor of the 1980s. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I agree with your overall assessment.
And it wasn't a showcase episode, but he was fine, and he was Arnold in this episode. He was Gary Coleman, and I mean, that's the reason people still remember the show. Well, I remember it for, the father on the show, of course, and some other things. But
Yeah, and let's not forget, he, was holding his own not just with his usual group of people, but the great Whitman Mayo.
yeah, if you can hold your own on the screen with Whitman Mayo,
Yeah.
you're doing something right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Think about all of that. We probably should have discussed that at the time, but all the great people that surrounded Gary Coleman that he got to work with, just in those episodes, Whitman Mayo, Charlotte Rae, and Conrad Bain.
Right.
All these
Trio of
actors with a wealth of knowledge and experience.
Mm-hmm. And Coleman, no shrinking violet. He held his own quite well.
Yeah.
With a talented cast around him. Yeah, I think I go with Gary Coleman on this. Much respect to the others, but it's Gary Coleman for me.
Gary Coleman for me.
The late Gary Coleman.
Late Gary Coleman.
Posthumous award.
Sorry,
here.
can't give this to you.
Yes.
Next category, outstanding performance by a non-human. So, as way of explanation, this pretty much includes anything that's not a human.
Yeah, well explained. Yes.
Animate or inanimate.
Covers a lot of ground.
Okay, here we go. Outstanding performance by a non-human. Heinrich of Midvale as Joe in Run, Joe, Run. Monteague in He-Man.
Yes.
Orson from Ork in Mork and Mindy. And the Train from Silver Spoons. All right.
Certainly an interesting, an intriguing category. A little something for everybody, I would dare say here.
Yeah. Train lovers, alien lovers,
Yeah. And
weird frogmen, alien things, and dog lovers.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should explain the Train from Silver Spoons because people might not remember.
Yeah. The one of the main features of the Stratton household is a pretty large-sized model train. I'm sure train enthusiasts out there could tell me what scale.
Mm-hmm.
Big enough for an adult to ride on top of.
Yes.
So maybe it seems still a little smaller than like you might have at a zoo or something. But within that range, I think.
Like some of that stuff that you see at the mall, you'll see
Yeah.
like the kids can ride around.
The mall, that's a good sample. Yeah.
Strong enough for an adult, but made for a child.
Or a man-child.
Yes.
And it often would, come riding in. Steam would billow around. The crowd would go nuts. Mm-hmm. There really was a crowd. And one of our episodes, wasn't there some snack delivery on the train?
Indeed, there was. Yes.
For the big poker game?
Big poker game. Yes.
Yeah. And it's definitely a feature, and often you see actors having to step over the tracks.
Yeah.
All that. So, yeah.
And a big part of the series. I think all of us who watched it then wished that we had some kind of like little train like that in our house.
Yeah. Yeah. Always in the opening credits.
Do you like how I felt the need that we had to explain that, but I assume that everybody remembers Monteague from one episode of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe?
I do, yeah. Monteague was a little, frog alien dude who had a very convoluted plot to take over the universe.
Yes, and the episode was it Castle of Heroes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
the title really has nothing to do with that episode.
yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, that's why it was kind of hard to summon the title because
Blackbeard and
with Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
That legendary hero, Genghis Khan.
But he was quite the antagonist, not just for He-Man, but Skeletor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed Monteague in that episode.
Yeah. And he had a cool voice.
He did.
Yeah.
Very memorable.
Orson, we don't even, we got to give Orson some credit. We don't even see Orson.
Right.
We just hear his
It's voice only.
We're led to believe he's rotund.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. Because Mork always says something like, your obesity, or addresses him like that or something.
Right, yeah. But we don't really know. And yet he does a fine job. We really get a sense of his sort of his differentness, his lack of emotion, for instance. Mm-hmm. Yes. He played a very big part in that Mork and Mindy episode. And
he helps lead Mork to the moral of the story, so he plays a vital part whenever he appears.
Yeah. And finally, Heinrich of Midvale, of course, is the German Shepherd who played Joe, the German Shepherd, who was on the run in Run, Joe, Run.
Yeah, and Heinrich does a great job. You can really see the angst of a fugitive dog in his performance.
Right, plus all the physical business with turning on and off faucets. And
yeah, I mean, he has to be athletic, very skilled, in addition to turning in an acting performance, so that's definitely in his favor.
Acting with humans and other animals in this episode.
Very true.
Horse.
It's an excellent point.
I know in another episode he acts with dolphins.
Mm-hmm. And he's fine with
I
all
would think
stars.
Dogs might, just being in the nature of dogs, might be a little freaked out by dolphins.
Yeah.
It's not something they see all the time.
Heinrich handles it like a true pro, though.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, he was fine to work with on the set, so
right. Yeah.
I think he should get some credit for that.
Yeah.
Because animal actors can be disruptive, but there's no evidence of that in the episodes of Run, Joe, Run that we watched.
No.
And again, he's carrying that show.
Yeah. And maybe during season 2 he caused some, he got a little too big for his lack of britches, but...
yeah. Well, he was dealing with cast changes around him and kind of a change in the creative direction, so
right,
I don't want to hold that against him too much.
He put in some demands for a new doghouse.
Yes.
It's understandable.
It's fair to say that for the record, but if we're focusing on
this episode,
season, although, now that the timer's up, I got to say, he's not necessarily my pick.
Okay.
I think I would lean towards Monteague. As you mentioned, the distinctive voice, the master plan, his frequent drinking and draining of...
I forgot about his martini.
Various, obscure drinks of obscure origin. Monteague was a true highlight of the episode for me. So I would lean him or Heinrich. I would rule out Orson because he had a relatively small, if significant, part in that episode that we watched. And the Train from Silver Spoon's a worthy nominee, but not who I would choose.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning Heinrich, but I could go Monteague.
Yeah,
I don't think this is controversial enough to go to the random number generator.
You do think, or you don't?
I don't. No.
Well, I mean,
I feel bad for Heinrich, but listen, just with a name like that, we know he's some sort of royalty.
Yes.
So he's got plenty of awards, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Monteague, he might have plenty of riches and plenty of minions, but he doesn't have a BATTY Award.
No.
I really think he earned it.
And he's probably still stinging from not taking over the universe.
Yeah, it's tough to recover from that.
Hopefully this doesn't open up him back up to trying.
Well, I'd like to hear, one reason to vote for him, I'd like to hear Byron interview him later and maybe ask him some of these questions.
Right.
Because Byron can do it in a way that won't, make him feel slighted about what he doesn't have, but make him celebrate on what he does have.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd go with Monteague.
All right, congratulations, Monteague.
Excellent
You
work.
won something.
Yes.
Finally. All right, we're sailing along here. And the next category, outstanding performance as oneself.
As oneself, yes. As opposed to a character.
Right.
This is kind of, yes.
Yeah. So, Skip Stevenson from Real People. Telly Savalas from Battle of the Network Stars. Jim Perry from Sale of the Century. And Rona Barrett, also from Battle of the Network Stars. Start the timer.
All right. Well, you've got another tough category, I believe. You've got the All-American Midwesterner Skip Stevenson,
Yep.
stand-up comedian, charming, charismatic personality who had several strong moments in the Real People episode we watched and covered, including mailing himself at the request of a viewer.
FedExing.
Yes, FedExing himself. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, also Inexplicable Ladies Man.
Yes, yes, undeniable appeal to the ladies, and that counts for something.
Yeah. And a standout in a cast of people as themselves.
Yes.
Right.
Telly, a team captain, strong presence throughout the entire episode of Battle, the first episode of Battle of the Network shows.
Stars.
Stars, yes. I didn't do it that whole episode, and now I did it. I think it's important to mention that Telly helped set a tone. That first episode really helped establish what the show was, and I think Telly was a huge part of that.
And he really was, he stirred up all the trouble.
Yes, he was an instigator. He was fighting for his team. He was an advocate. As a team captain should be. He was totally fighting for the interests of the CBS television network.
Right.
And I think he did an excellent job at it.
Yeah. But he is, I mean, he's the one that called up the whole thing in question, and then.
And the relay race?
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though his team was going to lose no matter what.
Right. Well, that shows how important he was paying attention, and he saw that rules infraction and pointed out to the commissioner as he should have.
So he also supported the game.
Yes, he did. The integrity of the event.
Yeah.
And some of the strategy he was using, and talking about late in the event.
Yeah.
With the tug of war, I mean, Telly was on top of it. So Jim Perry, one of my favorite game show hosts ever, totally in command of Sale of the Century. He did make a rare miscue near the end of this episode, but overall, he's got the presence, he's got the chops. He did a great job, in my opinion.
I think that show would lose some of his charm if he never made miscues.
Yeah, I think there's something
like
to
an
that.
Alex Trebek type on that. I don't think that would be. It's such a rapid fire game that
it is.
You know.
And it's not exactly, how should I put this? It's not one of the more highbrow game shows out there either.
No, but it's complicated.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes. But at the end of the day, it's people, spending fake money on fake items and seeing fake Miami Vice sketches with fake prostitutes. So
yeah.
And Jim Perry handles it all with aplomb, I think you would say.
Right.
So credit to him. Rona, of course, the sort of the roving gossip correspondent or reporter for Battle of the Network Stars.
Yeah.
And maybe also known as Print, and she made many TV appearances. She had several features in this episode.
Yeah.
She did a good job.
I'm going to throw out just a real quick theory about her. Mm-hmm. You think maybe they had her there to make Howard look like less of a heel? She carried some of the smarmy weight.
She did.
Things.
Some of those segments that we kind of questioned, and some like the interviews, she might not have been directly asking them, but it was sort of implied that she was doing some of those interviews. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered that, but she did good, and I think in some strange way she was also there to add credibility to the show. But I think you're onto something there. Okay. I'm not sure if it worked as far as making Howard less of a heel, but she'd get some of the smarm in there. I'm certainly leaning between two people, and I'm definitely leaning one way on this. You could probably guess.
I'm kind of stuck between three, actually. No offense to Miss Rona Barrett.
Okay, I'm willing to eliminate Miss Barrett as well.
I could go Skip, Telly, or Jim. They all have qualities.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
Well,
what are you? You said you're down to 2.
I was kind of choosing between Telly and Jim Perry.
Okay.
Skip was entertaining, but he's not necessarily someone that didn't necessarily go out of it saying, "Boy, I got to see me get a catch up on some Skip Stevenson." Whereas seeing Sale of the Century, like, oh, I'd watch some more of these old ones. And Telly, it's not really an issue because I always feel like I should be watching more Telly Savalas. Mm-hmm. With me, it's Savalas and Jim Perry. Both excellent, both in sort of a semi-game show / game show setting.
Yeah, and I think in a way, Jim Perry and Skip Stevenson fulfill certain of the same category. Like, I don't know where Jim Perry's from, but he seems to have some of that same Midwestern.
Yeah, well, he started out doing
everyman quality.
To me, one of the things it comes down to is outstanding performance as oneself.
Yeah.
Jim Perry was a game show host. He is himself, but he's also sort of playing the game show. Telly Savalas, for this particular episode, now that I think about it, the show needed Telly Savalas, and he brought Telly Savalas. So even distinct from his work as Kojak and other things they did, I think he gave an outstanding performance as himself in this particular project. So I'm kind of leaning Telly Savalas the more I think about it.
I can see that. And he didn't hide, he was smoking.
Yes, he was. Quite often.
Wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
No problem putting sunglasses on top of his bald head, which in a way emphasized his baldness.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed comfortable in those outfits. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as comfortable as Bob Conrad.
No.
But
yeah.
Still, he seemed okay with it. And he did participate in the tug of war, right? I think he was there.
Yes.
He wasn't just... The guy from Maude was...
He was in the back.
Bill Macy
was
around.
The one that was, walking around. Maude.
So, yeah.
I think
who loves you, Telly?
I think Telly did the tennis too, but which wasn't. I think he was in one of those events that they didn't show the full highlights of.
Yeah. I'd like to see him play tennis.
Yeah, he probably did it.
I bet he's got a cigarette in one hand and his racket in the other hand.
And he's got like a martini, somewhere back in the court by his tennis bag.
Yeah.
In the changeover, he goes and takes a drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Telly. Congratulations again, posthumously. Let's just leave that.
Yeah, I guess we don't need to call
a lot of these people are dead.
Yeah, this show is about 40 years old. But they live on forever in our hearts.
Yeah. All right.
Congratulations, Telly. Yes.
Ooh, and this is a special category that might not ever come up again.
Interesting.
Outstanding Conrad.
Whoa.
Yeah. We established in the Mork and Mindy episode that Rick likes people named Conrad, actors named Conrad.
Indeed I do.
Yeah. All right. So we have 3 nominees. Robert Conrad, Conrad Bain, and Conrad Janis from Mork and Mindy. Conrad Bain from Different Strokes, Robert Conrad from Battle of the Network Stars. And unfortunately, Bill Conrad is not eligible.
No.
I have a feeling we mentioned him more than once somehow.
Yeah, he certainly is an outstanding. He's an outstanding Conrad, but no, he's not going to be outstanding Conrad in the baddies.
Also, non-eligible Hans Conried.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Good point.
Okay, so I'm going to start the time. We might not even need 5 minutes on this one. I feel.
You think so?
Well, I'm just going to lay out.
Please do.
Conrad Janis in this episode of Mork and Mindy really didn't get a lot to do.
True that.
I think he was only in one scene.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. At the risk of getting beat up again, we already dissed Mr. T. Bob Conrad. I don't know. In this competition, again, he comes in second place. Or maybe third place, but definitely behind the one and only Conrad Bain.
You know what? I was thinking it was more of a tussle between Conrad Bain and Robert Conrad because Robert Conrad gave so many memorable moments by protesting, complaining, and generally griping so much during that episode.
Right. And being mildly racist.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the idea of sticking it to him by having him finish second again, as you alluded to. And part of the thing is we're talking outstanding Conrad. Conrad Bain is a lovable, charming father figure with a certain amount of wisdom. In this episode of Battle of the Network Stars, Robert Conrad is kind of a jerk. So...
And we shouldn't be rewarding.
I'm not so sure we should. It's not outstanding villain. It's not outstanding rabble-rouser.
No.
It's outstanding Conrad. And I'm not so sure Robert does justice or does any favors to the Conrad family name in this episode. As a matter of fact, there's many Conrads might be a little bit ashamed of him.
I agree.
The NBC team might have been proud that he was advocating for them and as scrappy as he was. Plus, did he not, ultimately what happened when he had that little runoff with Gabe Kaplan?
He lost.
He lost, yeah. He had his chance, and he kind of really lost face, in my opinion. He made a big deal out of it, and then he wound up losing when he had a chance to outrun Gabe Kaplan. It's tough to give a guy an award for losing a foot race to Gabe Kaplan.
by a wide margin.
Yes,
It was not close.
It wasn't. It was not ambiguous.
Yeah. And frankly, when he threatened to just quit.
Yeah.
If I were on the NBC team, I would question that particular thing because there's $20,000 each at stake.
Yeah, and they needed the money. Many of those.
Yeah. Right, they were on NBC.
Yeah, they were on NBC, and half of them were on shows that we had hardly ever heard of.
Right.
Because they were gone by the time the episode aired.
That's right. So, yeah. Plus, just to go back to Conrad Bain and his qualities. I was just thinking earlier that the sort of dad that he plays is a little out of vogue these days. I feel like the sitcom dad has become a dumb guy.
Yeah, more of a bumbler.
Right.
Not the smartest guy in the room.
Whereas he's in the tradition of Ward Cleaver.
Yes.
Fred McMurray on My Three Sons.
Yes.
Calm, mildly bemused by things.
Excellent word, yes. Definitely bemused. Not befuddled by his kids, but bemused by them.
Yeah.
A little, somewhat detached.
A little detached,
but still
wise.
Yes, but still a loving figure and accessible.
Yeah.
Well, you make an excellent case. It's got to be Conrad Bain. I agree with you.
All right. And we beat the clock this time.
Unlike Robert Conrad. He lost to Gabe Kaplan, the clock.
Yep.
He probably would have lost to Penny Marshall if he raced her. He just did not come off well in that episode.
There were probably things he would lose to William Conrad.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was actually best as a color commentator in the Tug of War, I think, Robert Conrad.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
Right.
But not enough to put him over the top in that category.
He wasn't professional at all, but...
No, of course not. He was never
actively
professional.
Rooting against and coaching.
Yes, favoring one side over the other, yes.
All right. Oh, this is a good one, too. Outstanding exasperation.
Outstanding exasperation.
Yeah. So, Cameron, played by Burgess Meredith from Search.
Lockwood.
Higgins, played by Jonathan Hillerman from Magnum P.I. Skeletor from He-Man, played by Skeletor. And Dorothy from the Golden Girls, played by B. Arthur, of course.
Wow.
That's a lot of exasperation.
It is.
And, Robert Conrad could have been in that category.
He could have been.
Yeah.
I feel a little indignation just thinking about this category, actually. Where do we start with this?
I don't know. It's all different kinds of exasperation, too.
It is. And each of these have outstanding bodies of work.
Yeah.
And even if you limit it to these particular projects that we're covering for the podcast, Higgins had how many episodes? Like scores of episodes of Magnum P.I.
Yeah. Pretty much every episode,
yes.
He was exasperated at some point.
He certainly was.
and in different ways. He could be exasperated in a sort of mild-mannered British way, or in a much more dramatic way.
He could be exasperated at Thomas Magnum.
Yes.
He could be exasperated at the situation, as in this episode. I mean, he found himself in certain
exasperated at himself.
Yes.
Exasperated at T.C. and Rick, always.
No relation, all that again to me.
Yeah, and also she didn't come up, but his friend and would-be lover Agatha Chumley sometimes exasperated him if he was paying attention enough to notice that she was saying anything.
Now,
Oh, and his brothers, his various half brothers that would show up, could try his patience too.
true.
A lot to deal with. Cameron, of course, had the probe agents to deal with.
Yeah, and they were able to get almost without effort. They were able to get under his skin a little bit.
Yeah.
They always did something to raise his blood pressure a little bit.
Right.
Not quite by the book, any of them.
Yeah. And, not by the book, but also probably living a life he, wished he was living.
I believe that's true.
Definitely when it came to food and wine.
Yes.
And he was stuck eating donuts and drinking coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know if, whether the romantic aspects of it were, on his agenda at his age. I don't know.
Yes.
But, maybe. Maybe he just didn't want to have to hear that stuff through his earpiece.
That's quite possible and understandable, I'd say, too.
Yeah. And he's also exasperated at not just Lockwood, but, the Angel Tompkins.
Yeah, well, the top brass is exasperating by making all these plans like behind his back and grooming people to possibly take over his spot eventually.
Right. And, the only person... No, everybody. He got exasperated with some of the other people, too, for, taking too long and reading too much information. And,
yes. Not getting to the point.
The only thing that doesn't exasperate him is that computer.
Yeah. And that's... he seems to have a good relationship with the computer, but I wouldn't be surprised if off camera he's kicked that thing a few times, too.
I'm sure it every now and then a tape gets stuck or something.
Yeah. He gets physical with it.
Yeah. Skeletor, the classic sort of villain exasperation.
Mm-hmm.
Having dumb henchmen.
And
dealing with a weasel like Monteague.
Yeah, and this is new because it's not just He-Man. Yes, it's Monteague that comes in and promises the moon and can't deliver again.
Yeah.
And it's like Skeletor, yet again, he suffers defeat. Monteague, this is like sort of a singular defeat to He-Man, but for Skeletor, this happens all the time. He has a possible chance. He works with this guy, on some level, and then it goes up in smoke again. And he does sort of get the satisfaction of saying, I told you so.
Right.
But he's still exasperated about the whole thing.
Yeah. I have some advice for Skeletor.
Yeah? What's that?
When you get stuck between the moon and Eternia, the best you can do...
Yes?
The best that you can do is fall in love.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah.
Excellent advice.
Right.
Maybe it'll happen someday for Skeletor.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Boy. It would have been disappointing for him, actually, if he got the moon, because that's not what he wanted.
Yeah.
He wanted Eternia.
Yeah, it's...
Monteague wanted the universe.
Well...
Maybe if he gave him the moon in addition to Eternia.
That might be enough for him.
Yeah.
The moon itself is not much of a consolation prize.
No. I'm not even sure about the moon situation on Eternia. But,
yeah, I don't know either.
Although, most of the citizens there are constantly at risk to moon people.
Yes.
They're short shorts. But,
right. Yes, that happens quite a bit.
Well, and we've only got 8 seconds left here to talk about B. Arthur as Dorothy.
Yes, Dorothy's born on great exasperation throughout the whole series. Yeah. Maybe not so much in this episode. To me, her biggest exasperation is with her ex-husband, Stan, who's not in this episode.
Yeah.
Or especially at hearing something stupid one of the other girls says, or something ridiculous that Rose says.
Right, yeah.
Or something outrageous that her mother says.
Yeah. Now, she does have something that I would say none of these other nominees really showed, which is the...
Female reproductive parts?
Oh, yeah, that'd be one of them. One of the things. The silent exasperation.
Ah, excellent point.
A.k.a. the slow burn.
Yes, he shows it with just a facial expression.
Higgins might do a slow burn every now and then, but I don't think the other ones, there's usually a verbal.
Yeah, I think more with Higgins, too, with his voice. That's a good point.
I think Skeletor would be hard for him to do a slow burn because he doesn't have a face.
Yes. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm any closer to picking a winner than I was at the beginning of this
not at all.
discussion.
And whoever loses, they're going to be exasperated.
I know.
They might be exasperated at winning, too. I don't know them, but... Certainly the losers.
I'll say one thing. B. Arthur's already a little exasperated, I've heard, because backstage she's upset that we haven't gotten her a medley of nominated songs yet. So
That's right.
She's a little on the edge as it is, already. So
Yeah. I think the orchestra was giving her trouble, too.
yeah, well, that happens a lot.
Not professional.
Boy.
The guitar player during the Silver Spoons part of it was just really... He was trying to push that guitar stuff even further than the original song.
Musicians can be a little tough to work with sometimes, let's face it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess one thing I would say is, are we talking outstanding exasperation? It's not necessarily a career achievement award. If we're focusing on one specific episode, does that make a difference? Does that help?
I think so.
I think I would rule out Skeletor.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot to deal with, but
Yeah.
I do feel like it's just another day.
Yeah. This is a little bit of didn't really distinguish himself so much in this episode.
Yeah. And I think you kind of already made the suggestion that Dorothy didn't quite have as much to do as normal in that episode.
I think if it was a series long award, I would probably give it to her, but I don't know if I can give it to her based on the ladies of the evening.
Comes down to Cameron and Higgins.
Well, I'll defer to you somewhat because you're the Magnum guy. To me, let me just say this. We're short on time, I realize, but Higgins, yes, again, kind of another career achievement. This episode was a great episode, but to me, more of the exasperation was almost. His exasperation was almost overshadowed by some of the indignation and exasperation that Magnum had once he found out what the situation was and what Aaron Gray was doing. And Aaron Gray even had some exasperation a few times.
Right.
So he was a little overshadowed in his own episode.
Yeah.
Whereas Cameron, the great Burgess Meredith, his relationship with Lockwood especially is what made the show so cool to us, and one of the reasons we wanted to start, we wanted to cover that episode, and one of the reasons we wanted to start the podcast. So I'm maybe leaning towards Cameron in this one.
I am too, and partly because Higgins, this was a special Magnum Higgins bonding episode too, so he wasn't as exasperated, and of course he caused some comedic exasperation at the end of the episode by one, outing Magnum's tape collection, and two,
yes,
interrupting some whoopee.
Yes.
So, whereas Cameron, I mean, not only was he dealing with Lockwood, but he was definitely dealing with Gloria too, and as you mentioned, the corporate machinations, and he was just getting it from all sides.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm on.
We agreed on that one.
Yep.
Okay. Truly deserving, a tough category again, but Cameron, Burgess Meredith from Surge.
Yeah. I think that brings us to.
I can't wait to hear
go
what's
back.
Next.
So we have 5 categories left.
Okay.
6 categories left because we're splitting one.
Yes, for the first time this year.
Right. I guess we'll go to the last 2 that have nominees, and then we'll go to the general categories.
Excellent idea. I'm fully on board with that.
All right. Outstanding male performance. Hugh O'Brien from Search. Whitman Mayo from Different Strokes. Tom Selleck from Magnum P.I., already the winner of one award.
Yes. And
Robin Williams from Mork and Mindy.
Wow.
Timer has started.
Well, would you like to go first on this one? I tell you what, these guys meant a lot to me growing up and watching TV, so this is going to be a tough call.
So we've got 2 kind of action guys and 2 comedy guys.
Yeah, and let's just say we've been able to eliminate certain people from other categories because, well, this episode wasn't in, but these episodes pretty much showed off a lot of what these guys can do, I think, in this category.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be harder to eliminate people just for that kind of thing by process elimination. We might be able to eliminate them because they're not as showy, perhaps, as some of the other ones, but boy, they qualify in this one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The nominating committee did a great job, I would say, in this one. They deserve that blue ribbon.
It was certainly a showcase for Robin Williams.
Yeah, and that's saying something for Mork and Mindy, this particular episode.
Yeah. Really cutting loose.
The one where he was, as a quick refresher, he was becoming in touch with his emotions. So he was doing all kinds of voices, dramatizing, becoming the personification of various things like fear,
Yeah.
and love and those kind of things.
Right. Whitman Mayo is impressive because he was kind of stepping outside of what we knew of him by playing like a con man.
Yeah, instead of a beloved
Except the
sidekick.
conscience of... Well, I don't know if he was the conscience of Sanford and Son. Lamont was also kind of that.
Yeah,
But,
he was more of a
more
of a naive individual. Or
Yeah. And, of course, on his own show, Grady, he was often... well, I've only seen one episode, but smarter than people thought.
Yes, he was
Gave him credit for
deceptively
it. He was
cagey.
wily, but not in the way a con man would be.
Correct.
He pulled off that suit. And
Sure
hat.
did.
Tom Selleck, we've already praised his mustache. You might have even hinted that his mustache was doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Well, I think that's undeniable.
Yeah.
I will also say, in fairness, he's more than a mustache, and he does prove it in some scenes in some of the action. He's running on the beach,
Yep.
and he's doing, there's some action scenes, so...
And then some of the comedy, the light comedy.
Yeah.
He does, there's a lot there. And then, of course, Hugh O'Brien, I mean, he's just awesome.
He is.
He's suave, but in an American way.
And this may be his finest moment in the series, even, this episode.
Right.
The first episode of Search.
He delivers lines about Peach Melba with an earnestness that makes you want to find out what Peach Melba is and then maybe eat it.
Yeah, exactly. He sells Peach Melba.
Yeah.
Boy.
He gets a little, sort of 70s TV karate action in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's got machismo without being obnoxious about it.
And he spends a lot of time essentially talking to himself.
Yes.
Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, for me, I think I'm leaning towards one of the dramatic actors.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Well,
and we did award Tom Selleck already. That's
I would eliminate Whitman Mayo. Ultimately, he is a guest star in here. He was great, but boy, in this category, in this circumstance, I just can't pick him over the other ones. Robin Williams did distinguish himself,
He did.
but was the episode that memorable? I'm not so sure.
I mean, the episode is memorable, I think, because of his performance, but it's also Robin Williams doing what Robin Williams does best.
Yes.
Yeah,
And you certainly couldn't think of Mork and Mindy without Robin Williams, to be fair.
right.
But then again, I think you could say that for Magnum P.I. and Tom Selleck.
Right.
Maybe not as singular a performance, and I wouldn't penalize Hugh O'Brien for the fact that Search rotated between, three agents.
No.
Because if you just look at it as this episode, it was an outstanding male performance, no matter what. I mean, I'm trying something here as a little thought exercise to help see if it helps, and it doesn't really help too much. I'm thinking, who would I rather be like? And I still kind of want to be Magnum, and I want to be Lockwood.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be Mork,
No.
for what that's worth. But I guess I would go between Hugh and Tom Selleck, Hugh
Yeah.
O'Brien and Tom Selleck.
But who?
Well,
Tom Selleck, I mean, if you're Magnum, you've definitely got a better living situation in terms of place. Although it's a complicated living situation.
right.
So would you want to have to live with Higgins?
I don't know.
If it meant living in Hawaii.
Oh, well, it is Hawaii. He's got a good support group of friends too.
Yeah.
And he's clearly the alpha in that thing. He's got friends at his disposal. He can screw up TC's charter flight business at the drop of a hat.
Right.
For his own purposes. He does have he gets to canoodle with Erin Gray in this episode.
Yeah.
Now Lockwood can pretty much have any woman he wants anytime, for
Right.
what that's worth.
And he's traveling the world.
Yeah.
There's a Mercedes wherever he needs one. He's got a lot of technology in his hands. I mean, his life is being monitored
Yeah.
24/7.
Right.
Well, unless he takes off his monitor. But even then, they could talk to him through his ear.
We're kind of looking at this one episode at a time, but
Yeah.
I wonder, do we need to give some credit to Tom Selleck for doing this over the course of, 9 seasons of Magnum PI, as opposed to, Hugh O'Brien only had 1/3 of episodes in one season. Not through any fault of his own.
No.
He's awesome.
Right. Well, I did read that he suggested that, the rotating cast.
Which almost makes him even better for doing that, for somehow managing to do less work.
He, he spent some time at the golf course with Bing Crosby and Fred McMurray.
Yeah.
They all. How do you work the schedule around your golf?
Yeah.
And McMurray already had his, I film all my scenes at the beginning of the season thing. Bing Crosby had his, I just don't do the show.
Yeah.
And Hugh O'Brien was like, maybe I can split the difference. Just not do as many episodes.
Right. Fair play to him.
Yeah. And
I
think you're suggesting Tom Selleck, I think.
I don't know if I am. Maybe I am. I need some help with this.
Yeah. I also forgot to set the timer on this one.
Okay.
So
I thought I heard it go off, actually, but I guess
it did go off.
we just gone over. See, the thing is, if you take one of them out of the episode, even then, that doesn't necessarily help, because there's still awesome things about those episodes that we covered.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can do that. It's tough. I personally, let me put it this way. I would probably vote for Hugh O'Brien on an episode-by-episode basis, but I'm kind of giving Tom Selleck some career weight, and I'm deferring to you as the Magnum guy here. Help me out here. I'm really torn on this one.
He got to do a lot of what Magnum does, just in that episode, I think.
True.
It was like a good, like I said, the humor, but there was also drama. There was a concern about Higgins.
I believe Tom Hanks won the Batty last season, did he not, for his guest appearance on Family Ties?
Did we we might have had a guest category.
Okay. I thought he won.
Because Robert Pine won. Right.
Uh-oh.
We don't remember who won our own awards.
Well, we've had, in our rich history of the Batty Awards, who could keep all that information at the drop of a hat? We haven't had time to engrave them yet.
I'm going to go to our website and find out.
You mean battleofthenetworkshows.com?
I do, yeah.
Our own website? Okay, well, this is a tough call. Tom Selleck, in this particular episode, he did do some Magnum-y stuff, and it was a pretty good showcase for him, but Lockwood established, and if I'm using the same rationale that I just used to vote for Cameron, I kind of have to use some of that for Lockwood for setting the tone of the series and making this episode so cool and helping launch our podcast. That's why this is really such a dilemma for me. And in season 1, boy, I hope I didn't slight Robert Pine at all by forgetting that he won Best Male Performer. But I know Tom Hanks won something as Uncle Ned in Say Uncle of Family Ties.
Yeah, Robert Pine won Best Male Performance. Tom Hanks did not. I don't see him listed as winning anything. He was in that category.
Oh,
I think it was a tough choice.
I'm bowing my head in shame.
He might be in your list of snubs.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize to you and to the past nominees and recipients.
Robert Pine.
To the award committee, to the Batty Academy, and to our listeners for that mistake. I apologize. I thought that would help. Well, now that we know that Robert Pine was indeed male performer, does that change the vote? I mean, if the precedent that he set in the first season?
He set it for just a commercial.
I know. It's tough. Well, we shouldn't compare anybody to Dolan.
No.
Boy, what do you think?
Maybe this is a time to go to the random number generator.
I'll say this.
Because I can't choose.
I would vote for Hugh probably, but I could be talked into Selleck. Maybe we should go to the random number generator. That's the only rational way to decide this is through the random number generator. Am I right?
I think you're right.
That way, there's no hurt feelings, and we put science into it.
Okay.
So, folks,
I'm going to choose a range here between 1 and 537.
Okay, excellent choice.
And what do we say? Well,
You
just
can do odds or even. You can do
odds.
closer to 537, closer to 1.
Let's do odds or even.
Okay.
So, just based on how they are on the list, well, they're both odd numbered on the list. But
Hugh comes first.
Hugh comes first.
Odd.
Odd.
Tom Selleck would be even, I would say.
Hugh O'Brien is not odd in any way, though.
No, certainly not.
All right, here we go.
Should we do some electronic?
499.
That's an odd number.
Odd number. Hugh O'Brien.
Wow. Oh. Man. What an epic category that was.
That's,
Wow.
yeah.
You know,
we went the timer and then
some.
later like 2 more timers.
Yeah. I feel good about it, though. In the spirit of the podcast and how much we love Search, and we kind of want to boost Search a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel good about this. No regrets.
And, Tom Selleck already won an award.
Yes, that's true.
Well
So
deserved.
He's not going home empty-handed.
He beat out Burt Reynolds.
Exactly. No shame in him.
He and his mustache had a good day.
They sure did.
All right.
Well, let's move on.
Outstanding female performance.
Wow.
Erin Gray from Magnum P.I.
Wow.
We had to choose there. Linda Carter from Wonder Woman. Pam Dauber from Mork and Mindy. And, in the words of Blanche Dubois, Miss Betty White from The Golden Girls.
Is that Blanche Dubois or Blanche
Devereaux.
Devereaux? Yes.
And the words of Blanche Dubois.
You always rely on the kindness of
There
gentlemen
you go.
callers.
Yeah.
There's women. Is that?
I don't know. I can only remember.
Am I mixing up the Glass Menagerie with Streetcar Named
You
Desire?
might be, yeah.
The kindness of strangers.
Yeah.
Gentlemen callers is Glass Menagerie. Okay.
All I can remember is Stella and the Napoleonic Code.
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think we got the nominees. Betty White, Pam Dauber, Linda Carter, Erin Gray.
I was an English major.
Yeah.
All right. Starting the timer. Again, we have a split between drama and sitcoms or comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 3 brunettes and
Yes.
a blonde.
Yes. Interesting breakdown. Yes.
Yeah.
And the committee is asking us to consider Erin Gray for Magnum P.I. and not for Silver Spoons,
Yeah.
and Linda Carter for Wonder Woman and not Battle of the Network Stars.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, what do you think?
Pam Dauber, we praised her quite a bit in Mork and Mindy, and I think we agreed that she was underrated for the straight woman role she did, especially with a particularly manic Robin Williams in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Not strong enough for this in this group, I would say.
Okay.
Betty White as a national treasure.
Yeah.
Again, though, not my favorite part of Golden Girls. It would be Dorothy. Her character was not always my favorite. It was more the reactions of others to her character. And boy, although I will say, just the fact that Betty White in this episode and in all episodes of the Golden Girls, knowing how sharp she is in real life, the fact that she was able to effortlessly play that role of Rose Nyland, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But
and she had the buttercream speech.
yes, she did have a bit of a showcase in this one. However, I would eliminate her as well. To me, it's between Erin Gray and Linda Carter, which should be no surprise to anybody that heard me talk about them during the episodes, during their respective podcast episodes.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Erin Gray was, of course, the Digger Doyle character.
Yeah.
Who, now in her credit, okay, let's say this for one thing. Linda Carter's Wonder Woman was it was a disco episode, so I wouldn't call it a routine episode.
No.
But it wasn't necessarily an exceptional Linda Carter episode. She didn't get to sing,
Well,
which you would think she might in a disco episode.
Right, yeah.
They didn't find a way to contrive a real disco scene for her,
No.
which is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
So, whereas now Erin Gray's deal was coming on as a foil/partner for Magnum and holding her own with Tom Selleck throughout the episode and making a big impression and actually making you think, as apparently I guess they thought at the time, hey, there could be a spinoff here.
yeah.
That's a big notch for her, I think.
Yeah.
Having said that, I probably would lean Linda Carter because she's Linda Carter, because she's Wonder Woman, and boy, it's tough for me to vote against Wonder Woman.
We did talk quite a lot about how just a memorable, iconic performance that was.
Yes.
How she embodied that character.
Yes.
For a lot of people.
Whether or not this episode was a particular acting showcase or even Wonder Woman showcase, she pretty much brought it in every episode, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, and again, unimaginable show without her, really. So.
And she genuinely made us believe that she was found Paul Sand charming.
Yeah, that's true. The rather nebbishy Paul Sand in this episode. That's good.
Yeah. And she held her own against the professor.
Oh, Russell Johnson, yes.
Yeah. Now I'm just feel it thinking about Lyle Wagner and feel like a little sorry for he's not nowhere in these.
Yeah.
His show was not. Now Erin Gray, of course, we got to contrast that performance with her Silver Spoons performance, and just in general praise of her. You know, she handled both. The dramatic work and the and sitcom work pretty evenly, I think.
I agree.
You know, she didn't always get to be the funny person on Silver Spoons, and I don't know that. Well, she did have react to Mr. T somehow in a comedic way, I think. Yeah, I would say Linda Carter.
Well,
I
think we both agree on that. This is a little easier than I thought.
Yeah,
Erin Gray was great on at least two other shows that we both loved as but and as great as that episode was, and as much as I would have wanted to see a Digger Doyle series, or at least a recurring role on Magnum PI, I think we can agree that that would have been great.
Mystery wheel, she could have.
Yes,
but then that had happened. No Silver Spoons. Would have been someone else. Well, that might have been fine.
Yeah,
it might have been someone else who could have filled their shoes. I don't know if anyone else could have been Digger Doyle, but I think Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, indelible performance.
Yes, props to her. In many ways, this is Wonder Woman's year, and I think it continues with the BATTY Awards. So good for her.
Right. All right. Well, so we have 3 categories left, and then we have, of course, the teased in the intro. Also, the inaugural Genius Award.
Yes.
The last 3 are general in the sense that anything we covered is eligible. Mm-hmm. Right. The last 4, I keep forgetting.
Yeah, with the exception of the split, yes.
Yeah, so the split, that's the one.
So we should do that now?
Yeah. So the split category is theme song, but we're doing splitting it between instrumental theme song and a theme song with lyrics.
I think that's a good choice, and it allows us to honor musical excellence even more so.
Okay, I'm going to start the timer. We might. There's some precedents. We might go over the timer.
Yes.
Yeah. So in the instrumental category, because as we were talking about this, certain songs sprung to mind for me, and I would say the 3 right now that are still there: Search,
okay,
Magnum PI, and although it does have a few words, I'm going to say He-Man.
Okay, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, and the version of Wonder Woman we watched didn't have a lot of words either. Right? No, it didn't. Yeah, I'm confusing that. It just had Wonder Woman at some point.
Yeah,
but it was mostly instrumental.
I agree. And unfortunately, the committee didn't give us a lot of guidance on this, so a rare miscue by the Blue Ribbon Committee. Well, this is a big deal. This is unprecedented in the history of the BATTY Awards. Right. I'm glad we're doing it, but we don't have any precedent for this, so forgive us for hashing this out.
Right.
But I always thought of Wonder Woman as more of a lyrical song.
I think so, too.
Regardless of what category, I would not have it competitive with the instrumentals.
Okay.
So if it were in that category, I would not vote for it anyway.
What other shows, just to refresh our memory? I think Mork and Mindy, that was
Mork and Mindy was an instrumental, yes. Now,
Run Joe Run had instrumental with voiceover.
Yeah.
That was more memorable because of the voiceover, though.
Now, Battle of the Network Stars has theme music, but I think it's hard to tell because of the music edits that have been made.
Right.
It was more of a. I don't know if it was composed originally for that series either. I think they might have used some stock music for that one.
Okay.
So I would not include that. The last two you mentioned, I would not include those as contenders, even if they're eligible.
Okay.
And Real People.
That's
Yeah.
sorry, Real People.
I have a tough time with He-Man.
I don't know where to put that. That also has a lot of voiceover.
I would include that with the lyrics.
Okay.
Because, the essential part of it is lyrical.
Right, yeah.
And that part being...
He-Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
To me... Well, okay. I mean, should we consider these should we go to lyric? Because should we name some of the lyrical ones now? Golden Girls.
Golden Girls, Different Strokes.
Yes.
Silver Spoons.
Yes. And... I think that we've pretty much covered everything.
And the Sale of the Century.
Oh, yes, and Face the Music. Now, okay, Face the Music I would put in there for the best theme song. Yes.
That was in the instrumental. Yeah.
And Sale of the Century was da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. So, they would be eligible. We can just say that.
Okay. So we're moving He-Man to the lyric one.
I think so.
Wonder Woman, or... I think it's just I think it's out of the running because it's not the lyrical version.
I agree.
Yeah,
it's hurt in both categories because of the episode, maybe because of the episode we watched, but still.
Right. Yeah. Well, for me, instrumental it comes down to Search and Magnum.
Me as well.
Like the Magnum music, of course, being a Magnum fan, I've known forever, and the Search music less, but there's music that made an instant impression on us. Not just the theme song, but the score and everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's theme music that some of us might be carrying around illegal MP3s of.
Yes, that's
some of us. I mean by people, not anyone here.
Real people.
Real people.
Yes.
But I would vote in this case, as much as I love the Magnum theme song, for Search. Also, the episode of Magnum we watched didn't have the sort of final version of that song.
Good point.
It was close, but it didn't. It was missing a few elements that, or the guitar wasn't quite as tight.
I agree with much of your thinking. I'll say this. Yes, there's of those two songs, Magnum PI music is a classic, but there's only one song of this category that I have actually listened to when I'm exercising to get me pumped up, or just to get me ready to start the day, and it is Search.
All right.
Music that makes me feel like I should be a probe agent, if nothing else. And so, I go with Search.
Okay. Search is a big winner this so far.
It sure is, yeah.
All right, and then in the lyric, well, there aren't that many there anyway, but
I don't vote. He-Man is basically this strength of He-Man, the name, and
right.
It's cool, but not enough in this category.
No, I don't think so.
Golden Girls, it's memorable, but it's not something I'm going to listen to in the car with the windows rolled down.
Yeah,
and it's not even the original version of that song.
Oh, right,
it's the cover of the Andrew Gold AM Gold hit. So.
The two the kid coms there. Different Strokes is a classic.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
And it has involvement by Alan Thicke.
It does. Is he singing that? We talked about that.
Yes.
Before. He is singing that one.
Yes, it turns out he is on most versions, and in addition to being a co-writer.
Yeah. Silver
Spoons, I'll say this. If it was your rendition of the climactic vocals of Silver Spoons, I might vote for that.
Uh-huh.
However, as much as that song made an impression on me growing up, Different Strokes is the one for me in this category.
Yeah, and some of the things impressive about the Silver Spoons are distinctly instrumental.
Yeah.
Basically the guitar.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. Didn't Silver Spoons tinkered with its theme song for the course of the... had several versions of it.
Right.
So did Different Strokes. But I think the essence of what's good about the Different Strokes theme song, like the lyrics and things, they remain the same. They knew that there wasn't much change. And as a matter of fact, I think in the later years, when they changed the song, it felt like a little bit more like the show is getting lame because, like, why would you screw with a song?
Right.
I think the original was that good. So
Yeah.
to me, it's different strokes, Mike.
A stone cold classic, as some people might say.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, we got in under 10 minutes on that. So.
Okay, so Search and Different Strokes.
Yeah.
They did not have to compete against each other this year. For the first time in BATTY Awards history, we split it, and it generate a lot of buzz. You can see here in the Shrine Auditorium, there's a lot of people still talking about that. Just this new freshening up to the show this year. So I'm proud of that.
Right, yeah. Sorry, Miss Arthur. There's been a change in plan. We're just going to have you sing the Different Strokes song.
Yeah.
Since it's one and you haven't been out yet, I think that's the best.
We're running a little over on time, so yes.
Yeah. We understand you didn't learn all the lyrics. We'll try to have them on the teleprompter for you.
Yeah. If send Byron Allen out to interview her, and maybe if he hums a few bars, you can she'll pick it up.
Yeah. Okay. Next is Best Episode, and
oh boy.
You might need to explain that. I need to remember what the.
I might need.
That's not the best episode of the podcast.
Yes, I'll try to rephrase what the Blue Ribbon Commission has told us on this. We're considering not the best episode that we did per se, but of all the episodes that we covered, the individual episodes. So we're not considering Magnum PI as a series for this category.
Right.
We're considering Digger Doyle.
Yeah.
And the same for each individual episode that we covered. Those are the ones that are eligible for this category. And I think the way we kind of looked at it last year is, which of these maybe stood out the most, which would we most want to see again, just as an episode, what did we enjoy most just watching for the show? What was the best, best favorite, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
So when you look back at the, the roughly, dozen or so episodes that we did this year, that covers a lot of ground. What do you think? Does anything stand out, or should we start? Okay.
I think
I have several thoughts. Well, should we do process of elimination for this category, or?
Well, this is the thing. I feel like I know what it is.
Well, you do.
For me.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Partly based on how you explained it.
So everything is going to be, and best series will have two. It may be a little bit different. Now, best series. Maybe we should just look at this as well. I think best series, we're considering the show as a whole, even beyond outside the parameters of what we talked about for the episode. So, what would we want to see more of? What sort of we'd like more as an overall show, considering the whole show of the run?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, best episode versus best series. So we're looking at the totality of the whole season 2 for this award, and you're saying you have a pretty good one that you can pick right away.
Yeah.
Let's have it. Search, yes.
Yeah.
And of course...
Because when you said, would you want to watch it again?
Yeah.
Yes.
We've seen it several times each.
I mean, there were other ones. The Magnum episode I've seen a few times, and I would certainly watch that again.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of these other things, too. But, boy, yeah.
And I'm thinking about watching it again later after the taping.
Yes.
I mean, after our live ceremony.
And especially this specific episode.
Yes.
It's, our favorite of that show.
And, of course, that episode is the Vienna assignment, or...
No.
Something...
This is the
what's the name of the... it's the Something Affair.
The Something Affair, yeah.
Yes, the
Somebody Affair, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Once again, we can find this out at battleofthenetworkshows.com.
Yes.
Just if you're interested in a particular show, say search.
Yeah.
Then you could search use the Google tool to search that, but we also have lovely tags because it is a blog-based thing. So
the tags are they provided by Botany 500? Those lovely tags?
I believe so, yeah. They come in shades of brown.
Yes.
Yeah. The Murrow disappearance.
The Murrow disappearance. Yeah. Well,
Murrow made such a lack of impression.
Yeah.
Of all the things in that episode.
Well,
and really it turned out to not be a disappearance so much as
I had the the number of words right and the fact that there were nouns in the title. So that's close enough.
And an article. You had the.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, that's one that jumps out at me. Not to slight any others, but my favorites, just to mention some of the other ones, the Magnum P.I. Digger Doyle episode. Mm-hmm. There were some nice surprises, like the He-Man episode. I enjoyed a lot of these. However, I would also give some credit to Battle of the Network Stars episode 1, which, boy, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to vote against that. To me, it would be between that and Search episode 1.
Yeah.
But, boy, Search is already a big winner tonight. And
it is.
What a great episode it was, though. And I'll say this. I still am taking the position that it may be the best episode of the series, actually.
I would agree with that.
Which I think is in its favor.
Yeah.
Now,
and I think that's a example of one where we chose an episode that defines the show for us.
Yes.
Like sometimes we don't go that direction.
Correct. Sometimes they're atypical.
Yeah. But if we wanted to recommend one episode of Search, it would be that episode.
Totally agree. I would also maybe say the same about Battle of the Network Stars, because it's probably the most memorable episode.
Yeah.
Has the memorable scene that everybody remembers, the confrontation with Robert Conrad, Gabe Kaplan. Boy, I think you're right, though, Mike. I think Search deserves this one. It's the night of Search. The Search train is rivaling the train from Silver Spoons tonight, and it's threatening to run away with another award, but I don't think I can stop it in this particular case.
And I don't. I think it might be a number of years before I would go back to Battle of the Network Stars.
Let's move on from this discussion before things take a turn. That's fair enough. Yeah. Okay, well, but let's not quibble. It's basically, I think I had a 1A and 1B. You had a 1, a clear number 1.
Yeah.
It's Search. It's the Moreau disappearance. Yeah, I remembered it. A great episode and deserving of another BATTY Award, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Down to the last nominated category, or not nominated, but the one we're voting on here now.
Now, last year
is best show.
Yes, the best show or best best show, best series.
Best series, yeah.
Incredible Hulk, I believe, won this award last year.
I think it did, yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I don't think it was necessarily so clear cut there. It was kind of a tough call.
Yeah.
This one isn't necessarily an easy call either, I think.
No.
This one I may have to do some process of elimination.
Yeah.
The game shows, I loved watching them and revisiting them, but they're not something I'm going to sit down and watch a bunch. I would not include those as best series.
I'm on the record how I feel about game shows.
Yes. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, yeah. No, not necessarily for this category. Real People, again, revisiting, but best series? No. Mork and Mindy doesn't hold up as well as maybe other shows. I mean, I think I enjoyed Different Strokes reruns more than Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
And those are kind of similar.
Hit or miss.
Yeah. And so Different Strokes is out for me as well.
Yeah.
Golden Girls, I really enjoy watching Golden Girls reruns. Yeah, I said it. But not best series for me either.
Yeah.
Battle of the Network Stars, I guess we can eliminate because certain co-host of mine has already eliminated it.
Yeah, and it's a series of specials, unlike the current version of it.
Well, it's tough to... that's a good point, actually. It had 2 a year, right? Or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So maybe it doesn't deserve this category. It's more of a mini-series, if anything.
Yeah.
Or limited series.
Right.
Silver Spoons...
I mean, I really enjoyed watching the first season on DVD, and I think I watched the whole season.
Yeah, you were tearing through that.
So that was a nice surprise, but certainly I wouldn't. And I know, it maybe kind of loses some of its appeal, probably pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Once he gets a little older, and of course, certain cast members left after the first season. Other cast members got added. Yeah. I think it has the same problem that Different Strokes has. Like Golden Girls, I would say, is of those sitcoms is definitely the most consistent.
Yes, I agree. And through the course of its whole run, it really didn't lose quality.
Yeah,
it didn't go through a lot of changes. Yeah, Different Strokes definitely declined as it went on.
Right.
Clearly. even with Conrad Bain.
So
So that leaves us down to
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman, Magnum PI, Search. Are we missing anything? I think that covers it, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, Run, Joe, Run.
Oh, Run, Joe, Run. Yeah.
The fact that we didn't think of Run, Joe, Run for the episode, really
yeah.
consider that, or the series, I think,
Yeah.
it was a delightful surprise.
Yeah.
And a great listener request.
Yeah.
But for best series, I mean, it only had, we've only been able to see a couple of episodes,
Right.
and it hasn't lived on and endured.
Right.
Now, you could also say the same as Search, but we do have access to the entire series.
Yeah.
It's out there. So we got Wonder Woman, Search, and Magnum
Yeah.
PI.
Yeah.
From a pure quality standpoint, you might have to eliminate Wonder Woman. As much as I love the show as a kid, I wouldn't say it's a quote-unquote quality series in the way that Magnum PI could be at its best.
No.
At the same token, there's few shows I've seen that are more enjoyable than Search at its best.
Right.
And, yes, Wonder Woman has the iconic performance. This is tough. And I will say, just to get this out there, I didn't watch a lot of Magnum as a kid.
Right.
When it was originally on, I should say. So I'm not as familiar with Magnum as I am some of the other nominees in this category.
Yeah. I'm definitely leaning Magnum or Search. Look, I think I'm more, in this case, leaning Magnum, just, I think, partly because of how long it lasted and was pretty consistent overall. And also for just the range of sort of different material it covered. That it could be a kind of light, fun action show, the way Search is, but it could also be fairly serious and develop that character over time.
Was Search good enough to transcend the fact, as a series, was it good enough to transcend the fact that it only ran for like 18 episodes? It didn't, as much as we like it, let's face it, commercially it didn't work.
Right.
And that, I think, has to be taken into consideration. This isn't, it's not just, Mike and Rick choose some awards. This is the BATTY Awards. We've set a precedent here, and there's some prestige in here. This is a big responsibility, and I think when we etch those names in the annals, of the global world Battle of the Network show's headquarters.
Right.
What do we want? What deserves to be up there? What is a true classic show that should earn a BATTY Award?
Yeah.
It's tough for me to make that call, like I said, because I didn't watch a lot. I respect Magnum, and I will say this, that when you recommended, I've enjoyed Magnum PI whenever I watch it. There was other things when it was originally on, and I just haven't had much opportunity to revisit it. But I certainly do enjoy the show. If Magnum were to win, that would be the second straight Universal Studios show, following The Incredible Hulk, and the second straight CBS network show.
That's a good point, too.
So
I feel like CBS, I feel like if it's not NBC, we haven't talked about it.
yeah, that's true. Yet NBC is not, NBC pretty much has...
Because Search was NBC, right?
Yeah, Search was NBC, so it's really carrying the load for for the BATTY Awards.
I wouldn't be offended if Search won,
Yeah.
but my leaning would be Magnum.
I think Magnum PI is the right call. Given the responsibility of, like I said, of everything, the momentous occasion, this is the BATTY Awards. I think we should give it to Magnum. I think Magnum earned it, I should say.
All right.
Wow.
Whew, let's take a breath there.
Take a breath, and then we've got one more special award, right?
Yeah, Byron's talking to the ghost of Hugh O'Brien right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're having some technical difficulties with that.
Okay. Yeah,
the microphone doesn't seem to be picking up.
Well, we'll keep the cameras rolling, so we won't miss anything if that interview should pick up again while we're...
It's getting a little bit at Burgess Meredith because he's being cantankerous.
Yes,
but
understandably.
Yeah. So that leaves us with this brand new award. Special award we're calling the Genius Award. After a certain actor playing a certain character in a certain commercial.
Yes.
I'll be less vague about that now.
Please, yes.
Robert Pine playing Bob Dolan in the Lowenbrow commercial we covered in great depth in season 1. If you haven't heard that episode, please go listen to it.
Yes.
And recommend it to everyone.
Yes.
And then maybe while you're listening to it, enjoy the biggest steak you can find in a bottle of Lowenbrow.
I think that'd be an excellent pairing with that podcast.
Right, which is, by the way, part of this award.
Yeah.
There's, of course, going to be a trophy of some kind. Do they actually call them trophy, like the Oscars? Do they call those trophies?
Statues, I believe.
Statues, yeah.
They prefer statue or statuette.
Statuette, yeah. But also a bottle of Lowenbrow.
Yes.
The biggest steak we could find.
Yes.
So,
trophy is what you give to your kid's little league team gets.
Yeah. Now,
BATTY Award winners get statues.
Right. We had a special Blue Ribbon subcommittee discuss this in detail and decide it. And I think what we wanted to reward here partly was maybe someone, a working actor, a character actor.
Yes.
Not your Henry Winklers or your Robin Williamses or even your Tom Sellecks or Hugh O'Briens, but
correct. Yeah, it's a non-competitive award. It's a very special award given to one individual.
Yeah.
And we hope that this will be the beginning of a great tradition here at the BATTY Awards.
Right. So the Genius Award goes to
the great Leonard Lightfoot. Yes, from in this case from Silver Spoons. Big favorite of ours, jumped off the screen. Just something about him.
Yeah.
He's got it's tough to define, but he's got the charisma, he's got the acting chops. He's someone, I'll say this, when you see him in those Silver Spoons episodes, you want to see more of him. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And I think that's an essential part of this award.
The fact that he's not in a lot of them and then didn't come back for season 2 for mysterious reasons.
Yeah.
A little disappointing. And he's a guy, he does what is necessary for that moment, much like the namesake for this award. If he's not supposed to be the funny person in the scene, he's not the funny person in the scene. He's the straight man.
Yes.
But if, like in the courtroom episode, he gets to be funny and also be a straight man to all the shenanigans going on. He brings it there too.
He can do a lot with a facial expression,
Yep.
even like a physical gesture maybe. He plays Ricky Schroeder's father, Edward Stratton.
Yeah.
He's basically his attorney and sort of right-hand man and
Right.
general legal confidant. And
Also named Leonard, right?
yes.
Yeah.
That's the role he plays.
Yeah.
And he does it quite well.
All right, and a kid puts a kick me sign on him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't betray that. We don't know that's happening until he turns around.
Yes.
Subtle. Genius.
Indeed, genius. And our crack research team did look into the fact, trying to solve the mystery of why he left the show. There's contradictory information. I don't want to speculate on the air here, but it's a mystery I think we're still trying to solve. Hopefully, Leonard, if you're out there and you'd like to accept the Genius Award, maybe can we extend an open invite to him to explain it and accept his award and talk about his time on the show?
Absolutely. And if Robert Pine wants to present the award to him.
Oh, yes. More
That
than
too.
welcome.
Yeah.
More than welcome. And Leonard Lightfoot has appeared on other things. I happened to see him on an episode of The Jeffersons where he actually made me laugh out loud with a scene he had with the great Sherman Helmsley. So he's not a one-trick pony. Much like Robert Pine proved his excellence in a variety of mediums and roles, so does Leonard Lightfoot.
Yeah. And as we revealed in the first ever Pick Me Pine, they were in the same episode of Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two geniuses together.
And both on Murder, She Wrote multiple times, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Despite that, we still honor Leonard Lightfoot as the first ever Genius Award winner.
Yeah. Congratulations, Mr. Lightfoot, and congratulations to all our winners.
Yes, a great night. Search
Do you
for
want
the
to
big
read
winner.
through those
but-
winners again? Do you
Certainly.
Okay.
Real quickly here, outstanding facial hair and mustache, Tom Selleck for Magnum PI. Gary Coleman won the the outstanding performance by a youth. Monteague from He-Man wins outstanding performance by a non-human. Telly Savalas from Battle of the Network Stars takes home the Batty for outstanding performance as oneself. The outstanding Conrad was Conrad Bain for his role as Mr. Drummond on Different Strokes. Burgess Meredith, a.k.a. Cameron, on Search, the first of several awards for Search tonight. He won for Outstanding Exasperation. Speaking of Search, Hugh O'Brien, who plays Lockwood on Search, wins for Outstanding Male Performance. Linda Carter, Wonder Woman herself, wins Outstanding Female Performance. For the first time ever, the Batty Award Committee has split the theme song category into Best Instrumental, which goes to Search in a narrow win over Magnum P.I., and Lyrical Theme Song, which goes to Different Strokes. And finally, the Best Episode, the Murrow Disappearance of the premiere episode of Search, and Magnum P.I. takes home the Batty for Best Series. And, of course, closing the evening in grand fashion, we honor Leonard Lightfoot, wherever you are, with our first ever Genius Award.
Good night, folks.
Good night. Awards tabulated by Norm Peterson.
Norm!
The Season 2 Batty Awards brought to you by Mr. T's Jewelry Exchange, who gladly melted 3 pounds of jewelry to make the award show appeals. And also pities the fool who exchanges jewelry somewhere else. Also brought to you by Battle of the Network shows Seasons 1 and 2, available wherever you find podcasts. Also brought to you by Battle of the Network shows Season 3, coming soon. Unless you're hearing this in the future, in which case it's available or not if we drop the ball, but we won't, but you know, just in case. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.